There we go. If anybody can't hear me because they get too far away, just let me know. I do appreciate everybody joining us and having us today. What I'm here to talk about is ROI. We're not here to talk about Spotlight. We're here to talk about what we see in the luxury suite market. Some of the numbers that we're actually seeing from the customers that we have. I think you're going to find a lot of this interesting. I think we have a unique place in the market in that, and I can be clear about it, the teams are not our customers, they are our partners. Our customers are the corporations that own tickets and suites. We feel it is in the best interest of those customers to have teams involved in everything they're doing with their tickets and suites. So what I want to do is show you some of the numbers that we've seen in the 4 years we've been doing this with some of the teams that we've been partnering with. Before I go into that, I'd like to add a little bit of credibility to those numbers so we can understand what they are. We're not guessing. These are actual numbers from actual customers. The history of Spotlight, me and my business partners were working at that stuff up 5 years ago. And we saw the same thing a lot of you guys see every day when it comes to the sports tickets and suites the customers we had. They were juggling sports tickets, trying to understand what their value was. They knew they had value. If you talk to most of these people who've been doing it for a long time, they know this drives business and it passes the eyeball test, but they don't know what the ROI is on it. And what we looked around and said, you know, there are some opportunities out there, but they're cost deficient. The only companies that are out there managing their sports tickets are those that have the money to do it. With software coming to where it's coming to, with the cloud available, boring-wise, with websites available that are inexpensive for the customer, we can bring this to a mass group. We can put together a process that makes sense for them, and we can bring them something that will allow them to actually track the ROI on their tickets and suites. So we built Spotlight. We've got a number of household names as our customers. We are very reference-reliant. We're happy to put people in touch with our references at any time. People at the forefront of ticket management, they see that this is working, and they will talk about it, and they will talk glowingly about it. It's not just about software. Right? When you have an ROI that's tied to these sports tickets and suites, you have to make sure that that process is in place as well. Anybody can build a ticket management software. It's easy. You're going to see 30 more of them in the next year. It's all about efficiencies. It's all about doing this across a number of customers, over thousands of firms, and understanding what works best and putting those things into place. Historically, the pain points we saw are the ones we all know in this room. Right? This is 5 years ago. Everybody remembers 5 years ago. It was great. Too many tickets, you had tickets in drawers, you were trying to understand, you know, who was going to what games, but you didn't really care. It was the boom times. You weren't worried about what you were doing with your suite. You knew it was driving business and you were staffing up. Nobody had any idea what the ROI was. Misuse and fraud was a concern, still is a concern. I will give one example. We did meet with a very large Fortune 500 company who was audited. Their auditing firm told them to put aside 8 figures annually to pay off what would happen if the IRS looked at this. That's risk. That's risk that makes some CFOs say, we're not playing this game anymore. Time has always been an issue. It's a lot of tickets. Managing those tickets can be difficult. Personnel resources, do I hire somebody to do this? I don't really have the tools in place. Maybe I'll just give it to my administrator down the hall. They don't seem all that busy. Maybe they can just hand out the tickets after I take the best games. Again, boom times, not top of mind. So now we talk about the curse word, September 2008. I don't remember it. It was an awful scenario for everybody. We had multiple heads of sponsorships come to us at that point and say, my CEO is telling me to drop everything. You gotta get out. We all remember it was horrible. Everything dropped, ticket sales dropped, suite sales dropped, luxury seat sales, they all dropped. Everybody was hiding underneath their desk. Well, what's happened is that creates the cost cutting that goes along with it. Now my question is, do I cut my suite? Or do I cut Tom and Susie? I know Tom and Susie, I've known them for 10 years. If I don't have a number on my suite, it's a lot easier to cut that than Tom and Susie. When the real question is my suite driving so much business that cutting Tom and Susie means I save David and Steve, who down the road might go if business keeps going down. So now you have these assets, and they're going up against other assets, and they have to be worth their value. Now, the technology shift that is happening with the next generation is eliminating relationships. A lot of people don't like to hear this, but it is. The internet is instant gratification. Trying to get somebody for 5 hours at a time is difficult, and some people believe that doesn't work anymore. Right? We believe it does, and we will show some numbers that show that it does. Business analytics have taken over. People are starting to focus on what they're doing with their tickets. Audit concerns remain, and the rules have changed forever. Now, the important point I want to make here is the worst thing we can do in this room, even for us, we're connected at the hip. You know, the teams are not our customers, but if companies don't buy sports tickets, we've got nothing to track. So we really are in the same boat. The worst thing that can happen here is to say, okay, the bad times have passed, people are coming back, and they kind of are. But this draws a correlation to the economic meltdown. You can't sign an adjustable rate mortgage anymore without new regulations that were in place in 2008. That's what's happened with sports tickets. Whether they tell you or not, because they tell us, there are new rules. They want to buy your product, but they can't do it because they're afraid of their CFO. And that might be news to some people in this room, that we talk to your guys' customers all the time, whether we're partners or not. They want to buy these products. The demand is not gone for these sports and entertainment tickets and suites. It's really not. And a lot of people out there believe this works because they've been doing it for years, but they can't stick their neck out for something that they can't justify. So the real question, do event tickets drive business? And the answer is yes, absolutely they do. So before I get into numbers, I want to show you what was happening, why we didn't have ROI. This is a complete mess, which is what's happening at most firms right now. The team is selling the inventory into the decision maker, somebody who at the firm has the ability to write a check for $100,000 to $1.5 million. That person is usually doing this for a reason. I want to drive business, all this stuff we've heard for 10 years. I want to drive business, I want to incentivize my employees, I want to take out my current customers, all those things. We've been selling those things for 15 years. The problem is, now that customer doesn't have a tool. They don't have a user's manual in place. And so they give those tickets and suites to somebody with no responsibility. Somebody who couldn't buy a number 2 pencil when the company died. But now they're integrally involved in what's going on with these tickets and suites. You can see there's a brick wall. The team has no idea what's going on behind that wall. They have no idea that this is a mess. That the administrator is keeping the tickets in their drawers, the owner doesn't know what's going on, they're wasting all their tickets with no ROI involved. Come renewal time, guess who's in the meeting? The administrator. The person who, again, doesn't have the ability to buy a number 2 pencil at the company, but they manage the tickets. And therefore, they're going to look at their owner and say, I don't want to do this. Right? We're not using the tickets. Here's a big stack of tickets that are unused. We would argue unused tickets does not matter. We would also argue that price does not matter either. And I'll show you some numbers that tell you. So, what a good process looks like is what leads us to be able to see these numbers that we're about to share with you. A good process has the team selling into the decision maker and keeping the decision maker intimately involved in what's going on. The sale is no longer, do you want to buy a 3 or 5 year deal? Now we're done. The sale is now, do you want to buy a 3-year deal? Now, let's put processes in place to check how this is doing on a monthly basis. No surprises. I know whether my suites are working or not, and they stand on their own 2 feet. We hear from a lot of teams, I don't know if I want to show my customers they're not using their suite. That is an immediate road to long-term failure. That's short-term thinking for the customer, and in 5 years they're gone. And they're gone for a long time. When these customers drop it, they've decided sports tickets don't work. It doesn't matter what we show them. They've decided sports tickets don't work. Right? That's where we're finding ourselves with a lot of customers. The numbers show otherwise. A good process allows the team to be involved. It allows somebody with a process in place who's been doing this for years over thousands of companies to make sure their goals are being met. This is no longer a question of, here's a suite, good luck, oh, and here's a software with 5 people that are going to help you run it. That will fail. What you need is somebody coming in and saying, here's a process. The team drives that process. This is what we're going to do. So, that current environment drives alert customers. And customers know what's out there. They're still buying, but they're not buying roughshod like they were. Number of suites at a time. They're buying 1, 2, 3, testing them out, seeing what levers work and pull other ones. They have scrutiny. The non-alert are facing scrutiny. The ones who are not taking it upon themselves are going to get cut. And we see it all the time. We see a circumstance where the team is trying to give them an extra bag, or have them need a player, and it's the wrong person. They aren't making that decision anymore. The CFO is. And the CFO is making it on numbers, and that's all. And we're going to touch on that tomorrow in our case study. If you guys want to come by, we do have an actual customer that will talk about how legal is driving a lot of their decisions now. The demand does exist. So here's our case study. This is what we're here for. That was the history of Spotlight. Case study number 1, these are actual numbers. This is a large financial institution that owns a suite, an NHL building in the Midwest. In 1 year, 1 calendar year in that suite, $150,000 It doesn't matter how much it costs, as long as it doesn't cost something that doesn't make sense for $130 million. They had $95 million in potential revenue. Go through that suite. Case study number 2. This is outlandish numbers. This is a massive government contractor at an NFL team. $5.691 billion in potential and current customer business went through that suite. $435 million in potential revenue. That's 10 games. $43 million per game in that suite. That's justified. That's ROI. 96% usage rate. That's great. We help them use their tickets. That helps drive that number up. But it doesn't matter. What matters is the value. What are you selling them? Is it something that makes sense? Case study number 3, much smaller. So we don't see a lot of big numbers that say, oh, there's only so many of those customers out there. This customer is an SMB electronic sales customer. They own one suite in one city. They have 2 offices total. Their average sale is about $15,000. 43 games, $9.8 million in potential business goes through that suite. This is a first-year customer. They're coming back, and they're probably going to buy more. $190,000 suite. The last one, which I haven't put up here, baseball team we don't partner with. Customer bought a suite. This last year was their first year. $1.7 billion in revenue went through that suite in 1 year. When we're working with a team, when we're working with a customer, we can sit down and share these numbers. We can sit down and say, here's where this works, and here's where it's not working. Right? This is what we're trying to build. So Bill asked us to come up and talk about ROI, and I would make the statement with the numbers behind me that we'll share at any time. Sports tickets drive business. If they didn't, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing. We're not out here trying to get people to drop their tickets. We're out here to help them get more out of something that doesn't have a user's manual currently. We want a scenario where their goals are being met, our goals are being met, and the team's goals are being met. And it's a true partnership that'll last a very, very long time. At this point, when people are seeing numbers like this, it doesn't matter if it's a 1-year, 5-year, or 7-year deal, they want more. Most of the customers we work with, they want more after they see this. This is a quote from the Houston Rockets. They had used Spotlight internally. 2 years ago they started, and they use it internally for their tickets and suites. As you can see, at the end of each season, we're required by management to generate ROI. After last season, they provided us tangible data to show we returned 500% on our tickets and suites. That's what happens at all of our customers. We use the Rockets as an example because I know you guys can find them and talk to them about it. They get the same scrutiny that your customers are getting on a day-to-day basis. Do suite tickets drive business? Yes. Can it be proven? Yes. Should we hide from them the utilization rate? Absolutely not. Because again, it doesn't matter. Effective waste is when a customer takes 10 of their tickets for a 20-person suite, takes their 10 biggest customers, has over $1 billion in the suite in one given night. It doesn't matter that 10 tickets went to waste. When the administrator shows up at the end of the year and says, here's our stack of wasted tickets, it doesn't matter. Because we look back and say, the CMO took the biggest customers. It drove this business. When we line that up versus the customers we didn't take to the suites, it makes sense. I really appreciate everybody's time. Bill, thank you so much for having us. And hopefully we'll see you guys around. We will be all over the event for the next week. So thank you.